For many, the first move had been to the West Bank. There, they lived in camps, but at least they were still in their own country. In '67, when Israel occupied the rest of Palestine, the West Bank camps emptied themselves in a new mass exodus, this time across the blown-up Allenby Bridge into Jordan. Thanks to the Israeli-Jordanian open bridge policy, this gateway between two worlds at war remains open to this day, a link for Palestinians in exile and those who stayed behind. Dr. Saeed says,
for the first time, it became apparent to Palestinians that if they were going to rely exclusively upon the Arab states to wage their struggle for them, they would get nowhere. And therefore, Palestinians had to take their own progress towards self-determination in their own hands. At a moment of the deepest collective Arab failure, the Palestinians began then to assert themselves and to take up arms to struggle towards self-determination.
In '67, when the rest of Palestine was occupied, I was a soldier in the Jordanian army. The king ordered us to withdraw without fighting, and so the whole of Palestine fell to Zionist control. There had been resistance before, but '67 was when the Palestinian Revolution really started. Since '67, we've had our own weapons, our own soldiers. We've become public. 3 years later, within 48 hours, 3 airliners were hijacked and forced to land in the Jordanian desert. After days of negotiation, the hostages were freed and the planes destroyed. Palestinians had made the complacent world aware of their plight through dramatic news headlines. That same year, in Jordan, violent clashes occurred between Palestinian and Jordanian troops. Many died on both sides, and many Palestinian fighters left for another exile, to Lebanon this time and many other places. But the spirit of resistance and determination to restore their rights was not dead. What had been common scenes in the streets of Amman just moved to Beirut as Palestinians continued to rally to their cause. During the '60s, Gaza was the stage for protest and sabotage. But after 1970, little remained of the unrest there. However, the October War had instilled a new sense of pride to the Arabs. On the occupied West Bank, this was expressed through more and more demonstrations against both the military authorities and the appearance of new Jewish settlers on Arab land. The result was tightened security, numerous arrests, and for some, deportation. From 1967 till now, the rebuilt Allenby Bridge has become the road to exile for most of the 1,300 people expelled by the Israelis from Gaza and the West Bank.
Yeah, taking from the military governor office in Jericho at 12 o'clock noon to the bridge, where they reached the half of the bridge, and they told me that from here you can go, but you can't come back. I said, someday I will come back to my country because it's my country. We never thought that they will treat us after the occupation by the way they treated the people after the occupation. Demolishing houses, demolishing villages, treating people the way they are treating them. That will create more hatred from the Arabs toward the Jews. That's why they are still in the camp, and they're working in the camp, they're raising their kids in the camp, because they know that someday we are going back. For instance, I can't go back. I want to go back, not as a visit. I want to go back and live in my hometown. My pharmacy is closed. I can't open my pharmacy. My wife will go there only for 1 week, 2 weeks every summer to renew the permits and come. All my family. or my tribe, if we say a white family. They are living there. I have my land, my house, my interest there. Right, I'm living here. I'm having not a bad time, but still I want to go back to my hometown.
Amman is a temporary haven for many Palestinian deportees, their only alternative to Israeli prison.
They used to hang me from my feet with my upside down, with my head down, and they began to beat me on my feet and on my sexual organs for hours.
Israel concedes that some excesses were committed over the years by its occupying forces. It says that disciplinary measures were taken where cases have been documented and denies that torture was ever a state policy. But the UN Special Committee to investigate Israeli practices in the occupied territories, basing itself on witnesses and press reports within and outside Israel, stated, the indications are very strong that cases of torture occurred and continue to occur.
My wife and my children are ready now to fight and to be killed in the sake of Palestine, in any time. And I have my son, since 2 months, Ish Mafkoud.
He's lost.
He's lost. This is his picture, and I don't feel any sad about him. This is my son. Since 2 months in Lebanon. He is lost.
Many others have gone, and many others will never return. For these men who have never known a land they can call their own, the rebirth of Palestine is the cause. Unfortunately, killings and hangings, bullets and tanks leave indelible marks in the minds of the young. Proofs are easy to find in the Middle East these days. Wherever their parents were killed during one of the many wars and conflicts the Palestinians have known these last 30 years, these orphans are the wards of Fatah. The memory of the parents lives on in the recollection of their sons and daughters.
I will be a girl, but if my country is liberated, I'll be a doctor, an engineer, anything that my country needs me.
Yes, Walid.
Edward Said remarks,
one of the saddest things to see is young children for whom no alternative exists except the gun. But I have a feeling that's changing. Over the years now, there are more Palestinian schools in which greater emphasis is placed on academic subjects, on widening the educational experience of each child so that the day is not defined by exercises with a gun. There is a Palestinian dialect which is different in Arabic from, let's say, Syrian or Lebanese or Egyptian. There are traditions. There are costumes. The family and clan organizations are different. Cuisine, turns of phrase, popular stories, mythology, and so on and so forth. So that you had in Palestine essentially a community, but nevertheless a cohesive national community which associated itself with the land.
I believe the present generation among the Palestinians cannot be called as moderate as the older generations among the Palestinians. That's why I think that now it's the golden opportunity to have a peaceful settlement with the Israelis, between the Palestinians and the Israelis, provided that the Israelis will recognize the rights of self-determination of the Palestinians, and including the establishment of their own independent state on what remained from the Palestinian soil that was occupied in 1967.
Going home for a short visit is the hope of most Palestinians in diaspora. During the months when the Israeli military authorities implement this rite of family reunions, thousands try to take advantage of it. To get the permit is long and difficult. The screenings by both sides meticulous. But it is easier for Palestinians wishing to leave the occupied areas, especially when they are not requesting a right of return. Once by the bridge, there are further checks. Long hours of waiting before being called to board one of the buses. Because the Israelis process only 24 buses each day, some have to return time after time, hoping that tomorrow they will get their chance. On the other side of the river, there will be more security, body searches, customs duties which sometimes make it necessary to abandon gifts or purchases behind. Some do not go back by way of the bridge. They are guerrillas who find their own way across borders. Their missions illustrate the conflict between what is justifiable to them and what is inexcusable to others. This took place in Malot, Israel, in 1974, following a raid at the school there by the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. 21 Israeli children and 4 adults were killed that day. There are differences of opinions among Palestinians regarding the extent to which violence is justifiable. The killing of innocent civilians, such as Israeli athletes at the Munich Olympics or travelers at Lod Airport, brought widespread international condemnation.
You see, we are against all this violence. The PLO is against it. You know it. And we have declared it many times. But we have to remember and to look to this case from all its views.
The PLO still accepts responsibility for raids inside Israel. But violence continues on both sides. This took place in Aziyeh, southern Lebanon, after an Israeli air raid. Over 100 were killed, men, women, and children. Similar military actions have been taken over the years by Israel against Palestinian camps in other Arab countries, in some cases following guerrilla raids inside Israel or against Israeli interests elsewhere. Violence breeds hatred. Retaliation brings only further retaliation. An eye for an eye is often paid at high interest rates in our day and age. Events of these last years have made the world painfully aware that the Palestinian people and the recognition and implementation of their rights are the key to any solution in the Middle East. They are there, they are a fact. Like it or not, no formula can be found, no resolution implemented, which does not take their inalienable rights into consideration.
The Security Council, expressing its continuing concern with the grave situation in the Middle East,
from the creation of the United Nations to this day, no topic has been the subject of more debates and deliberation by the world body. Following the 1967 war, the Security Council adopted the all-important Resolution 242.
However,
the PLO found this resolution objectionable.
United Nations Security Council Resolution 242 is not accepted by the Palestinians for the following reasons. First of all, it ignored the national rights of the Palestinians. The second thing, it didn't mention about the national rights of the Palestinians and looked to the matter as if it's a conflict between the Arab states and and Israel. Although the crux of the problem in the Middle East is the Palestinian cause.
Geneva, December 1973. Since the first session of the Geneva Peace Conference, several significant developments affecting the Palestinians have taken place. United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3375 requests the participation of the PLO in all peace efforts on an equal footing with all other parties. Israel remains opposed to this on the ground that, among other things, 242 calls for negotiation among states, and the PLO is not a state, and also because they have always refused to deal with groups which they see as bent on destroying Israel. In 1974 and 75, the General Assembly proclaimed its resolutions 3236 and 3375, which respectively affirm the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people and recognize the PLO as its representative in the deliberations of the United Nations.
It is mentioned in the United Nations Resolution 3236 that the Palestinians have their own inalienable rights, including their right for self-determination, for their sovereignty and independence, for their repatriation to their homeland. And we see to it that this settlement should take into consideration all these rights, national rights of the Palestinians.
United Nations, New York, November 13th, 1974. Yasser Arafat comes to address the General Assembly.
وإنني أتوجه إليكم أيضا أن تمكنوا شعبنا من العودة من منفاه الإجباري.
I appeal to you further to aid our people's return to its homeland from an involuntary exile imposed on it by force of arms, by tyranny, by oppression.
ليعيش في وطنه ودياره وتحت ظلال أشجار مزارعه حرا سيدا.
So that we can regain our property, our land, and thereafter live in our national homeland, free and sovereign, enjoying all the privileges of nationhood.
وفي مجالات الإبداع. لقد جئتكم يا سيادة الرئيس بغصن الزيتون في يدي.
Today I have come bearing an olive branch and a freedom fighter's gun.
فلا تسقط الغصن الأخضر من يدي.
Do not let the olive branch fall from my hand. I repeat, do not let the olive branch fall from my hand.
Homeless, stateless, even without an identity card. We haven't flags, we haven't states, we haven't a home, we haven't anything concerning human being rights, but accepts misery in this etc. But we kept very important thing, our will and determination. And for this, we are still existing. We started from zero, but we now are the important number in this area, in this formula.
We are not after 10 years or 3 years or just solving a problem like this. No, we want our rights, we want our land, we want to go back and live in Palestine.
We are struggling to regain our own identity. This is a divine right that is given to us by God.
I think that the Palestinians, they are well educated and well cultured. They can take part in all fields of human activity. I mean, scientific, arts, literature. I think as a small nation, we can take part.
This is my feeling, and I am ready to leave everything here and go back to my home. Really? Everything. I am ready to start from the zero, even.
Do not deny the people who were original owners the right to go back. Do not deny the Palestinian per se the right to perform as a human being.
I am a human being. If the world wants me to abide by the morality of humanity, then they must treat me as a human being.